Hey everybody, this is Fa Punny, and today we'll be analyzing the film Kumbalangi Nights. Like any movie that's worth analyzing, this movie has a variety of layers and themes, but let's start with the most obvious one, family. The film revolves around the dysfunctional family of four brothers, Saji, Bobby, Frankie, and Bonnie. They lived on a wasteland island named Kumbalangi and are generally looked down upon by all around them. Aside from the fact that they live in a shithole of a house, the main problem seems to be that their family tree is, well, kind of confusing. Their financial situation combined with their unconventional family tree has given the brothers a horrible reputation.
As the
movie progresses, it becomes clear that the brothers, Saji and Bobby especially, need to get their acts together. The constant bickering between them sets us up for a very satisfying ending, where all four put aside their differences and learn to coexist. It's interesting to note that by the climax, the brothers have not only grown closer to each other, but have become accepting of new members as well. Bonnie has brought home a foreigner, and Saji has brought home his friend's wife and child. The household seems even weirder than it did in the beginning, but the brothers have decided that it's A-okay. By having them accept each other's quirks, the film does a splendid job of portraying the importance of brotherhood, showing us that you don't need to be alike to be a family. A common idea that is discussed in the film is that of individual responsibility. The film expertly explores this concept using two separate narratives from two different perspectives. On one side, we have the story of Saji and Bobby, and on the other, we have our very own Shammi. Let's take a look at the narrative of Saji and Bobby first. Of the four brothers, the film mainly focuses on these two because they're the ones struggling the most with getting their life together. Bonnie has found his own path with a different lifestyle and a different group of people. While Frankie is too young to have problems, except maybe for the fact that he's ashamed of his brothers, and that he doesn't get to play football. Saji is the oldest of the four, but from the very beginning it's made clear that there's a distinct lack of respect with regard to how his brothers treat him. He has no stable job, he's living off his friend Murugan, and despite being the oldest, he's not in any way contributing to the household. It's hinted at times that Saji does want to provide for his brothers, but for some reason, he just seems unable to. He seems easily irritated and jumpy. It's made clear later that the main problem here is Saji's lack of self-worth, perhaps because he is ashamed of what people think of his family history. This lack of self-esteem is what ultimately prevents him from being a responsible elder brother, from doing anything productive. The contempt from people around him, even from his brothers and finally from Murugan, tips him over the edge. Instead of realizing his mistakes and facing life, Saji decides to escape, to kill himself. And we know how that turns out. Bobby too suffers from the same problem. He doesn't work and spends most of his time listening to music and hanging out with his buddy. There's a common theme here. Both brothers find it hard to take responsibility for their jobs, family, or relationships. Even when his best friend decides to get married and start working, Bobby is still not in any mental state for responsibilities or commitment. For Bobby, there's also the problem of an inflated ego. He refuses to go fishing, something that both he and his brother are supposed to be doing, simply because he considers it beneath his status. He never treats his big brother with respect, which is exactly why so many of us found this scene so hilarious. The problem with Bobby's ego is further made clear as his relationship with Baby progresses. Listen to what Bobby says after getting rejected at the theater. This idea of what it means to be a man is continuously referenced throughout the film. Of course, if we're going to discuss masculinity, we might as well move on to the second narrative, that of Shammi the barber. When compared to Saji and Bobby, Shammi is on the opposite end of the spectrum. While Saji and Bobby have a hard time taking responsibility, Shammi not only takes responsibility for himself, but also for those around him, to a point where he wants to make their decisions for them. Shammi is obsessed with feeling powerful and the idea of being a man.
Raymond, the complete man.
He's what you would consider a poster boy for the word toxic masculinity within a Malayali context. He takes pleasure in knowing exactly how afraid his wife is of him. He feels the need to exert his dominance even in the most mundane of situations. He projects his sexual frustrations onto others, but more than anything, he wants to be the man of the house, the one who makes the decisions, the one at the center of the table. On further analysis, we can find that it is exactly his insecurities that fuel this toxic behavior. Take this deleted scene, for example.
അതല്ല മോളെ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തന്നെ നാട്ടുകാരും കൂട്ടുകാരും ഭാര്യ വീട്ടിൽ പോയി നിൽക്കണം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് മാറി ചിരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. എനിക്കറിയാം. അതിനെ പുറത്താണ് ഞാനിവിടെ നിൽക്കുന്നത്. നിങ്ങൾക്കൊരു തുണയായിക്കോട്ടെ എന്ന് വെച്ചിട്ട് അപ്പോഴാ ഒരേതുപോലെ പക്ഷി ഇയാളെന്താ പക്ഷി പിടുത്തക്കാരൻ.
It's clear that deep inside, Shammi feels inadequate. He feels like everyone is laughing at him, which is why he feels the need to exert his power everywhere. Shammi's whole character can be described in one sentence.
Shammi hero!
In his mind, Shammi is the hero of the story, and he's constantly frustrated that people around him do not realize it. In the final fight sequence, Shammi is able to overpower the brothers combined for quite a long time. Not because he has any sort of superhuman strength, but because he has been preparing for this moment his entire life. You can see from his expression that he's almost excited. He's the good guy beating the bad guys. He's the man of the house. He is the hero. Of course, there could be another, much simpler explanation. The movie focuses mainly on the men, but it does give importance to the women as well. While Baby is more or less shown as the immature yet strong woman who knows exactly what she wants, it's her sister Simi who turns out to be much more interesting. Simi's character is used to point out the role that women too can play in a patriarchy. While it could be the men that create the system through action, it could also be women who help create it through their inaction. For almost the entire duration of the movie, Simi is visibly fearful and respectful of her husband, even when he doesn't deserve it. This is why it's so satisfying to watch when she finally breaks her silence and reacts. Despite the darkness that the characters face, the ending of Kumbalangi Nights is one of hope. The fight sequence at the end is not only a fitting climax to Shammi's character arc, but also a metaphorical representation of how far our protagonists have come. We see the four brothers finally united, working towards a common goal, recognizing and tackling the problem that lies before them head-on, accepting responsibility. What separates Saji and Bobby from Shammi isn't that they're devoid of faults. It's that at the end of the story, they're willing to fix themselves. Saji eventually decides to stop running from himself and his responsibilities. He brings Murugan's wife home and starts trying to rebuild his life. Bobby finally lets go of his ego, learns to respect people. Wait, did you just call her Cheji? While Shammi's story is that of an insecure, power-hungry man who finally meets his fall, the story of Saji and Bobby is that of failure, heartbreak, and resurrection. What makes us fall in love with the two brothers is that ultimately they are willing and able to seek redemption.
മകനേ ഞാനും അരികത്തൊരു കാണാം
Thank you so much for watching this analysis. If you feel like we've missed anything, don't feel shy to comment down below. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, well, you know what to do. Until next time, bye!
So, Saji, Bobby, and Frankie have the same father but different mothers. Bobby, Frankie, and Bonnie have the same mothers but different fathers. And Saji and Bonnie aren't really brothers. Okay, what?